Welcome back. So, number 38, an interesting group of people again. Edmund Hillary, mountaineer. We've got Ada Lovelace, she was a mathematician. Woody from Toy Story. We've got Ernest Shackleton, who was a naval explorer. Isambard Kingdom Brunel, engineer. Thomas Chippendale, the carpenter. Jethro Tull, inventor of seed drills. Samuel Pepys, the diarist. Capability Brown, the gardener and landscapist. Peter Jackson, director of Lord of the Rings. So here are the dialogues if they had spoken with the Buddha. Edmund Hillary versus the Buddha, the conqueror of mountains versus the teacher of inner peace. A contrast in ambition. Edmund Hillary, the first climber to summit Mount Everest, famously said, "It is not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves." The Buddha, too, taught self-conquest, but through wisdom. The greatest victory was over oneself, not through struggle, but through insight. Perseverance. Hillary's determination and resilience reshaped exploration. The Buddha, while valuing perseverance, guided beings to inner stillness. Effort is noble when it leads to the end of suffering. Imagine Hillary asking, "What drives us to seek higher peaks?" The Buddha might reply, "The desire for freedom drives, but true freedom is found within." Attachment to achievement. Hillary's identity revolved around his achievements, but the Buddha cautioned, even achievements, when clung to, bind the heart. True freedom arises when there is nothing left to conquer. While Hillary sought external heights, the Buddha revealed the inner peaks of liberation. Sutta twist, the Buddha might share the Dhammapada, verse 103. Though one may conquer 1,000 times in battle, greater is he who conquers himself. Hillary might ask, what remains after the summit? The Buddha could answer, peace remains when craving fades. Summary. Hillary's daring exploration contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of self-conquest, showing how wisdom transcends external heights. Ada Lovelace versus the Buddha, the pioneer of algorithms versus the teacher of insight. Contrast in discovery. Ada Lovelace, she was the mother of computing, and envisaged the machine that could create music and art, saying, "The analytical engine waves algebraic patterns just as the jackwood looms burns flowers and leaves, just as the jackfruit creates flowers and leaves." The Buddha also talked about patterns, but in the mind, the patterns of craving and delusion weave the fabric of suffering. Unravel them, and freedom arises. Quirk and imagination. Lovelace's imaginative brilliance was her defining trait, seeing potential where others saw mechanics. The Buddha, while valuing creativity, focused on understanding. Wisdom reveals the potential for freedom in every moment. Imagine Lovelace asking, How do we predict the future of the mind? The Buddha might reply, the future is shaped by the clarity of present actions. Attachment to intellect. Lovelace's identity was deeply tied to her intellectual brilliance. But the Buddha warned, even intellect, when clung to, binds the heart. True peace arises when knowing becomes seeing. While Lovelace created algorithms, the Buddha revealed the algorithm to end suffering. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the Sammaditthi Sutta, MN9, which outlines right view, Sammaditthi, outlining the nature of actions and their results as the foundation of wisdom. Lovelace might ask, can logic lead to liberation? The Buddha could answer, logic is a tool. Liberation arises through wisdom. In summary, Lovelace's visionary intellect contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of insight, showing how wisdom transcends even the most brilliant creations. Woody from Toy Story versus the Buddha. The loyal leader versus the teacher of letting go. Contrast in loyalty. Woody, the beloved toy, said, a friend is worth fighting for. The Buddha, while valuing loyalty, taught, true friendship arises when clinging fades. Compassion flows freely. Quirked attachment, Woody's unshakable loyalty to Andy and his friends defines him, often leading to heroic acts. The Buddha, while acknowledging devotion, warned against attachment. Loyalty that clings creates suffering. True loyalty liberates. Imagine Woody asking, how do we hold on to the ones we love? The Buddha might reply, hold them lightly, with love, but without clinging. Attachment to belonging. Woody's identity is tied to his role as a leader and friend. But the Buddha cautioned, even belonging, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises when we let go of identity. While Woody sought connection, the Buddha pointed to connection without attachment. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the Upaddha Sutta, SN 45.2, which highlights the importance of spiritual friendship. Good friendship leads to the path of liberation. Woody might ask, what happens when you lose those you love? The Buddha could answer, loss is natural, but love remains when clinging fades. In summary, Woody's devotion contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of non-attachment, showing how wisdom transforms relationships into paths of freedom. Ernest Shackleton versus the Buddha, the navigator of ice versus the navigator of the mind. In contrast, in Perseverance, Ernest Shackleton, the heroic Antarctic explorer, said, difficulties are just things to overcome. After all, the Buddha, while valuing perseverance, guided beings to overcome the suffering itself. The greatest difficulty is the mind caught in craving, in aversion. Overcome this, and you will be free. Quirk and endurance. Shackleton's resilience and leadership saved his crew from certain death. The Buddha, too, emphasized resilience, but pointed to endurance of the mind. Patience and wisdom conquer all obstacles. Imagine Shackleton asking, "How do we face insurmountable odds?" The Buddha might reply, "Face them with clarity, knowing they will pass." Attachment to survival. Shackleton's identity was tied to his role as a savior, but the Buddha cautioned, even survival, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises when fear fades. While Shackleton sought to conquer the ice, the Buddha illuminated it, the path to conquer the mind. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the Teva Vichaka Sutta, Sutta Nipata 4.14, which emphasizes patience and detachment. Be firm in hardship and let go of all clinging. Shackleton might ask, what arrives us to survive? The Buddha could answer, the desire to survive fades. Wisdom remains. In summary, Shackleton's extraordinary perseverance contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of inner endurance, showing how wisdom transcends external challenges. Isambard Kingdom Brunel versus the Buddha, the engineer of progress versus the teacher of liberation. Contrast in building. Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the brilliant engineer, declared, "I am opposed to the laying down of rules or conditions to be observed in the construction of bridges, lest the progress of improvement might be embarrassed by adhering to them today." The Buddha, too, sought the value of progress, but taught, "Build not for the world, but for liberation." All else crumbles. Quirk and innovation. Brunel's ingenuity revolutionized engineering, creating structures of enduring significance. The Buddha, while valuing innovation, guided beings to see impermanence in all creations. All that is built must decay. The unconditional alone is lasting. Imagine Brunel asking, how do we create something that lasts? The Buddha might reply, by letting go of creation itself, attachment to progress. Brunel's identity was tied to his ground-breaking achievements, but the Buddha cautioned, even progress, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises when striving ceases. While Brunel built bridges, the Buddha pointed to the path that transcends all constructs. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the Pyachana Sutta SN 22.95, which describes the impermanence of all conditioned phenomena. Like foam, all things arise and pass away. It's a Phena Sutta. Brunel might ask, what remains when all crumbles? The Buddha could answer, peace remains, unbuilt and unconditioned. In summary, Brunel's engineering marvels contrast with the Buddha's teaching of liberation, showing how wisdom transcends the impermanence of all creations. Staying in the UK, let's look at a famous carpenter who was one of the first people to build a sort of pack and sell that, according to Bill Bryson. Thomas Chippendale, carpenter. Thomas Chippendale versus the Buddha, the master of craftsmanship versus the teacher of non-attachment, contrast in creation. Thomas Chippendale, the renowned cabinet maker, said, "Good design marries beauty and function." The Buddha, too, appreciated beauty, but cautioned, "The greatest design is the mind free from craving, where beauty is not clung to." Quirk and precision. Chippendale's mastery lay in his ability to blend elegance with utility, crafting timeless furniture. The Buddha, while valuing skill, directed precision inward. Master the mind, and the world becomes a place of peace. Imagine Chippendale asking, "Can art bring lasting contentment?" The Buddha might reply, "Art inspires, but contentment arises when clinging ceases." Attachment to craft. Chippendale, his identity revolved around his creations. But the Buddha warned, even art, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises in letting go of all attachments. While Chippendale crafted beauty and wood, the Buddha revealed the path to craft freedom in the mind. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the Vangisa Sutta SN 8.4, which reflects on creativity. Let your craft inspire, but let wisdom free the heart. Chippendale might ask, what becomes of beauty after time? The Buddha could answer, beauty fades, while wisdom endures beyond form. Summary. Chippendale's craftsmanship contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of non-attachment, showing how wisdom transcends impermanence. Jethro Tull versus the Buddha, the person, not the band, the inventor of agriculture versus the teacher of the mind. Contrast, innovation. Jethro Tull, who revolutionized agriculture with the seed drill, said, "Improvement is the way forward for mankind." The Buddha, while valuing improvement, taught, true progress arises not from cultivation of the land, but cultivation of the mind. Quirk and vision. Tull's ingenuity lay in his ability to increase efficiency in productivity. The Buddha, too, saw value in effort, but redirected it inward. Plant the seeds of mindfulness, and the harvest will be peace. Imagine Tull asking, how do we ensure growth? The Buddha might reply, growth thrives when rooted in wisdom and care. Attachment to progress. Tull's identity revolved around agricultural innovation, but the Buddha cautioned, even progress, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises in letting go of results. While Tull cultivated the soil, the Buddha cultivated liberation. Sutta twist. The Buddha might have shared the Nalaka Sutta, Sutta Nipata 3.11, which speaks of the harvest of wisdom. The wise sow seeds of clarity and reap the fruits with freedom. Tull might ask, What if the ultimate crop? The Buddha could answer, peace beyond all striving and craving. In summary, Tull's agricultural innovation contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of cultivating the mind, showing how wisdom grows beyond material progress. Samuel Pepys versus the Buddha, the chronicler of life versus the teacher of liberation. Contrast in focus. Samuel Pepys, the famed diarist, captured the daily life of 17th century London, writing, "Strange to think how much we may change in ourselves, yet retain the same character still." The Buddha, while observing human nature, taught change is constant, but the self is an illusion to be understood and let go of. Quirk and observation. Pepys' meticulous recording of events often offered a win-win to his time. The Buddha, while valuing observation, directed it to the mind. Observe the arising and passing of thoughts, and liberation will unfold. Imagine Pepys asking, what do we learn from recording life? The Buddha might reply, the truth of impermanence becomes clear when observed deeply. Attachment to memory. Pepys' identity was tied to his detailed accounts, but the Buddha cautioned, even memory, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises in the present moment. While Pepys chronicled the external world, the Buddha illuminated the inner journey. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the Anicca Sutta SN 22.45, which emphasizes impermanence. All that arises will pass. See this, and you will be free. Pepys might ask, can we preserve life through memory? The Buddha could answer, memory fades, but wisdom endures beyond all time. Summary, Pepys' focus on recording life contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of impermanence, showing how wisdom transcends the need for preservation. Capability Brown. Capability Brown versus the Buddha, the gardener of landscapes versus the teacher of inner growth. Contrasting cultivation. Capability Brown. The great landscape gardener said the garden should be a work of art that appears effortless. The Buddha too spoke of cultivation, but of the mind. The greatest garden is one where craving has no roots. Quirk and creativity. Brown's ability to transform landscapes into harmonious works of art defined the legacy. The Buddha, while valuing harmony, guided beings inward, cultivating the mind, and peace will naturally arise. Imagine Brown asking, what is the key to a perfect garden? The Buddha might have replied, simplicity and awareness, free of clinging. Attachment to beauty. Brown's identity revolved around crafting beauty, but the Buddha cautioned even beauty, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises when beauty is appreciated without attachment. While Brown shaped the earth, the Buddha revealed the path to shape the heart. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the parable of the mustard seed, Kisagotami Sutta, which reflects on impermanence. All things that bloom must fade. Peace is found beyond the cycle of growth and decay. Brown might ask, can beauty endure forever? The Buddha could answer, beauty is fleeting. Peace endures beyond all forms. Summary. Brown's cultivation of landscapes contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of inner cultivation, showing how wisdom transcends impermanence. Peter Jackson versus the Buddha, the director of worlds versus the revealer of reality. Contrasting creation, Peter Jackson, the visionary filmmaker behind The Lord of the Rings, said, every story we create is a reflection of who we are. The Buddha, too, recognized storytelling, but taught stories reflect craving and aversion. Freedom arises when we see beyond them. Quirk and imagination. Jackson's ability to craft immersive worlds defines his legacy. The Buddha, while valuing imagination, directed beings to reality. See the mind's fabrications clearly, and liberation will unfold. Imagine Jackson asking, why do we tell stories? The Buddha might reply, to seek meaning, though true meaning lies beyond them. Attachment to creation. Jackson's identity is tied to his films. But the Buddha warned, even creation, when clung to, binds the heart. True freedom arises when one lets go of all fabrications. While Jackson built cinematic worlds, the Buddha reveals the path to transcend them. Sutta twist. The Buddha might share the Alagaddupama Sutta, MN 22, which speaks of clinging to views and stories. Do not grasp at fabrications. Let them go, and peace will follow. Jackson might ask, what remains when the story ends? The Buddha could answer, reality remains, unbound by tales. In summary, Jackson's storytelling contrasts with the Buddha's teaching of reality, showing how wisdom transcends fabrication. So we've had an interesting mix of mountaineer, Edmund Hillary, math and programming expert, sensitive Ada Lovelace, voiced by Tom Hanks, the Toy Story person, Woody. We've had also Ernest Shackleton, the naval explorer, Isambard, Kingdom Brunel. The carpenter, Thomas Chippendale, cabinet maker. The inventor of the seed drill, Jethro Tull. Samuel Pepys, with his London diaries. Capability Brown, designer of landscape gardens. And Peter Jackson, director of Lord of the Rings, all meeting the Buddha and exchanging thoughts and ideas on the values and directions that give life meaning. Thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate you being there. Don't forget, if you've got any questions or you want to raise questions or make comments or observations, that's what the comments is for. Really welcome to put some messages in there. I always really appreciate it, and I will always respond to any messages I receive. Thank you very much for being here, and I really appreciate your curiosity and your attention, and your investigating what these imaginative and fictional meetings and conversations might be like, and how they might shine light on issues in our lives. Take care, wishing you all well. May many beings be free from avoidable suffering.